We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph and Meseches Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 54a. The Gemara says, Tanya Kavase de Rava. We have a brisa that supports Rava. And Rashi explains, Tanya Kavase de Rava b'Toras Kohanim. This is a brisa in Toras Kohanim, the Stam Sifra Reb Yehuda. Because in general, when we have a Sifra, we assume it's Reb Yehuda. Again, Rava was within the sheet of Reb Yehuda. And what does Reb Yehuda say? The Ervas Avicha Reb Yehuda, the pasuk of Ervas Avicha, according to Reb Yehuda, it says Ervas Avicha might be talking about the actual father, that the person's having relations with his father, but that's not how Reb Yehuda interprets it. Reb Yehuda says Zu Eishas Avicha. It's actually referring to the wife of the father, to the wife of your father. And then he has a Gezerah Shava, which Reb Yehuda uses to learn the idea of a punishment for his mother who's not the wife of his father. And then you have extra, the words in the pasuk of Imchahi, that's used for the drush of Reb Yehuda. Again, the machlokus between Reb Yehuda and the Chachamim was in a situation where the woman that he's having relations with is both his mother and the wife of his father. Is that going to be two violations or one violation? And again, Reb Yehuda is the one who says it's just one violation, imchahi. The only violation is because he's with the mother and not because the wife of his father. And this brisa will give all of the various psukim and how Reb Yehuda understands those psukim, as the brisa now says. Ish, it says in the pasuk, a man, prat lekatan. So we're talking about a man. It has to be an adult. It cannot be a minor. Asher yishkav es eishes aviv, and he lies with the wife of his father. And so the brisa says, Mashma bein eishes aviv shei imo, ubein eishes aviv shelo imo. And this was mentioned on Rashi in the previous Amud. The pasuk, when it says that the person is with the wife of his father, that's the wife of his father, whether it's his mother, or the wife of his father, whether it's not his mother. Imo she'ena eishes aviv minayin. Now, how do I know that there's a violation if it's his mother, but not the wife of his father? Talmud lomar ervas aviv gila. It says in the pasuk ervas aviv gila. All of this will be explained as the brisa goes on. Mufne lahakish v'lodin mimenu gezerah shava. This pasuk of ervas aviv gila is actually extra, and we're going to use it for a gezerah shava. And again, the brisa later on will explain exactly what that gezerah shava is, but that's going to be teaching us if a person is with his mother who's not the wife of his father. And then the pasuk says mos yumasu. It says they will surely die, again if he's with the wife of his father. Beskila, what that refers to is the punishment of skila, stoning. Ata omer beskila. Now you're saying that the punishment is stoning. Oweno ela biachas mikol miso so amuris b'Torah. Maybe it's one of the other death penalties that are mentioned in the Torah. Nemar kan demehem bam v'nemar ba'ov v'yidoni demehem bam. It says over here in the pasuk the words demehem bam, and it says by ov and yidoni, by sorcery it says demehem bam. Malahalan beskila, just like over there the punishment that we're referring to is skila. Afkan beskila. So too over here the punishment is skila. The punishment is stoning. And the Gemara continues, the brisa rather continues, onesh shamanu. So from here we see a punishment, mos yumasu beskila. We see there's a punishment of skila. But as haraminayin, where do we have the warning from? And so the brisa says, Talmud lomar ervas avicha lo segala. It says in the pasuk ervas avicha lo segala. We'll see the full pasuk in a moment. And so from that pasuk we understand ervas avicha lo segala, ervas avicha zu eishes avicha. That's referring to exactly this case. It's a warning not to be with the wife of your father. Ata omer eishes avicha. Now you're saying it's talking about the wife of your father. Oeno ela ervas avicha mamish. Maybe it's actually saying that you're not allowed to be with your father in a mishkav zocher sense. Maybe that's what the pasuk means. And so the brisa says, no, nemar kan ervas avicha lo segala. It says in this pasuk ervas avicha lo segala. V'nemar lahalan ervas aviv gila. This is the gezerah shava the brisa referred to above. It says in the pasuk that we quoted above, ervas aviv gila. Malahalan beishas hakasa medaber. Just like over there we're talking about the wife of the father. Afkan beishas hakasa medaber. So too over here we're talking about the wife of the father. That's the warning for being with the wife of one's father. And the brisa continues, umashma bein eishas aviv shehi imo. And the pasuk again implies whether it's the wife of his father, that's also his mother. Bein eishes aviv she'ena imo, or whether it's the wife of his father, that's not his mother. And so the brisa says, imo she'ena eishes aviv. Now what if it's his mother who's not the wife of his father, it's just his mother? Minayin, from where do we know that that's prohibited? Talmud lomer, the pasuk says, ervas imcha lo segal. It says he can't be with your mother. Ein li ela bazhar. Now again, that's only a warning, so I only have a warning. She'asa hakasiv imo she'ena eishes aviv ki imo she'eshes aviv. It's a warning that we treat, the pasuk treats his mother who's not the wife of his father the same as his mother who is the wife of his father, meaning there's a violation. Onesh minayin, where do we know the punishment? And so here we do the gezerah shav in the other direction. Nemar karn ervas avicha lo segala. It says here ervas avicha lo segala. V'nemar lahalan ervas aviv gila. And it says again over there ervas aviv gila. Ma bi azhara, just like by the warning Asa hakasav imo she'ena eshes aviv ki imo she'eshes aviv. By the warning, we treat his mother that's not the wife of his father the same as the mother that is the wife of his father. All of those situations are going to be, there's going to be a warning. Af ba'onesh, so too when it comes to a punishment. Asa hakasav imo she'ena eshes aviv. The pasuk treats his mother who's not the wife of his father, ki imo she'eshes aviv, like his mother who is the wife of his father. And finally, the Brisa says, and this is the drush of Rabbi Yehuda that we referred to above, but it says imchahi, she is your mother, and from there we learn that you're not going to get two violations; it's only going to be one, meaning mishum imo atamachayvo, if it's his mother and also the wife of his father, he's really only going to be liable because it's his mother. V'atamachayvo mishum eshes av, but he's not going to be liable because it's the wife of his father. All of that is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. And we will take a look at the full psukim. The first pasuk that was quoted, V'ish asher yishkav es eshes aviv, it says if a man is with the wife of his father, again, V'ish refers to a man who's an adult, not a katan, and it says he's with the wife of his father. As we said, that implies whether that's his mother or not his mother. We're just talking about the wife of the father. It doesn't matter if it's his mother or not. Ervas aviv gila, again, Ervas aviv gila, that's going to be the pasuk, the part of the pasuk that's used for the gzeira shaveh. And then the pasuk says, Mos yumsu shneihem demehem bam, it says demehem bam. That's how we understand that Mos Yumsu is referring to Skila, and that we learned out again from Ov and Yidoni. That's where the pasuk says, V'isha isha ki yeh bahem ovo Yidoni mos yumasu bo'even yirgamu. It says that you're going to stone them, so it's clear we're talking about stoning. Bo'even yirgamu osam demehem bam. Again, it uses that same term, demehem bam, so we understand that demehem bam by eshes aviv also refers to stoning. And finally, the last pasuk, it said, Ervas avicha v'ervas imcha lo segala. That's what the Gemara was quoting, Ervas avicha lo segala, and Ervas imcha lo segala. That we're quoting that as two separate things. Again, Ervas avicha is a question whether that actually means the actual father in a mishkav zachar sense, a man with a man, or does it mean eshes avicha? And again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it means eshes avicha. That's what we learned from that gezeira shaveh to Ervas aviv gila. And again, Ervas imcha lo segala, that's referring to being with one's mother, and that's true even if it's not the wife of the father. And then imcha hi lo segala ervasa, again, that's the pasuk that's saying that if it's his mother and the wife of his father, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's just going to be one violation. And the Gemara continues with the Rabbanan's approach to all of these psukim. Rabbanan, how do the Rabbanan understand all of these psukim? First of all, Ervas avicha mamish. First of all, in that pasuk where it said Ervas avicha ve'ervas imcha lo segali, that's that third pasuk, they understand that it actually means being with one's father. It's Ervas avicha mamish in the mishkav zocher type of sense. The son is having relations with his own father. And the Gemara then says, if that's the case, hai me ve'es zocher nafka. And for a man being with another man, we already have a pasuk for that. That's the pasuk which says, v'es zocher, the full pasuk, v'es zocher lo sishkav mishkavei isha toevahi. It says that a male is not allowed to be with another male. So why would we say that this pasuk, Ervas avicha, is talking about the son being with the father? We already know that there's a prohibition of mishkav zocher. And the Gemara says to that, l'chayev olav shtayim. Well, it's to say that he's liable too. Meaning to say, if a son has relations with his own father, so then there's going to be two violations. Number one with his father, and number two, a man with another man. Uchid Rav Yehuda, and all of this follows what Rav Yehuda said. The Amar Rav Yehuda, because Rav Yehuda says, Nachri haba al aviv, let's say a non-Jew has relations with his father. We're going to say in a moment that we're not actually talking about a non-Jew here. It's just a euphemism. We really just mean a Jew that's with his father. Chayev shtayim, he's going to be chayev, he's going to be liable for two violations, as we just said. And similarly, haba al achi aviv, let's say a person has relations with the brother of his father. That's also specifically mentioned in the pasuk, and of course it's also a man with another man. So they're also chayev shtayim. They're also, he's going to be liable for two. And the Gemara now explains, Rav Yehuda Amar Rava says, Mistabra Milsa de Rav Yehuda be Yisrael. It makes sense to say that Rav Yehuda is not talking about a non-Jew. He's talking about a Jew who does it b'shogeg. The Jew is with his father, the son is with his father, but it's b'shogeg, it's by mistake. So there's no death penalty of a carbon. So therefore he's bringing a carbon. And the point is he has to bring two carbonos because there are two violations. That's how we should understand Rav Yehuda. V'hai deka Amar Nachri, and the fact that it's saying Nachri, why does Rav Yehuda say Nachri, a non-Jew, if he's talking about a Jew? Lishna ma'al Yehu, that's just using a nicer language. It's a euphemism, but we really do mean a Jew. Because if it should enter your mind that Rav Yehuda was talking about an actual non-Jew, so dino maini who katala. So what is the judgment of a non-Jew by a non-Jew who's with another man? Even if it's b'shogeg, it's actually the death penalty. So you can't have two death penalties. Betray katle kataltla, you're going to kill him twice. That's impossible. So obviously Rav Yehuda can't be talking about a non-Jew and saying chayev shtayim, that he's liable to. It must be he's talking about a Jew b'shogeg, and he's talking about two karbanos. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Nami Hachi, we have a brisa like this as well. Haba al aviv chayiv shtayim. If somebody has relations with his father, he's liable too. And haba al achi aviv chayiv shtayim. And similarly, if a person has relations with the brother of his father, he's also chayiv shtayim. He's liable to karbanos. And the Gemara continues and explains, now Ika diamri to loka Reb Yehuda. There are those who say that this is not like Reb Yehuda, and the idea that this would not be like Reb Yehuda and this is only like the Rabbanan is because, as we just said, we said that when the pasuk says ervas avicha lo segala, according to Reb Yehuda, that's not talking about being with one's father. That's talking about being with the wife of one's father. So therefore, there is no second violation according to Reb Yehuda. That's how some understand this brisa. This brisa is only according to the Rabbanan, who understand ervas avicha lo segala to be talking about his actual father. But there are those that say, afilu teim Reb Yehuda, you actually could say the brisa is like Reb Yehuda also, even though he doesn't have a pasuk for the second violation by father. But but he can learn it from a kal v'chomer from the brother of the father, because the brother of the father, there certainly is a pasuk specifically about that. There's certainly two violations, and maybe Reb Yehuda makes a kal v'chomer and says, if you're liable too for your uncle, for the brother of your father, then you're certainly liable too for your father. Kal v'chomer is follows, if by the brother of his father, who's a relative of his father, he's liable for two, so aviv lo kol shekain. So certainly if he has relations with his father, certainly he should be liable too. That's how some understand this brisa, that it can even be like Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara says, if you're going to understand that, then these two versions of whether we make a kal v'chomer is actually the same machlokas we find between Abai and Rava. Are we able to punish someone based on a kal v'chomer? That's exactly the question here. Is Rabbi Yehuda making a kal v'chomer from uncle to father? Mar savar onshin min hadin. That machlokas Abai and Rav is that one holds we can punish someone from a kal v'chomer, umar savar ein onshin min hadin, and the other one holds you cannot punish someone based on a kal v'chomer. And the Gemara continues now for Rabbanan. Now, according to the Rabbanan, azhara le'eshes aviv minalu. So if they're learning the pasuk is talking about an actual father, where did they get the warning for someone being with the wife of his father? And the Gemara says, nafkaluhu me ervas eshes avicha lo segala. They can learn that out from a different pasuk. The pasuk actually says ervas eshes avicha. It's a different pasuk. Ervas eshes avicha lo segala. That's the warning not to be with the wife of one's father. For Rabbi Yehuda, now Rabbi Yehuda, what does he do with that pasuk? Hahumi boile liazhara le'eshes aviv la'achar misa. That's to say that even if it's the wife of his father after his father died, even there's a warning. So you need that additional pasuk for that. For Rabbanan, now the Rabbanan, where do they learn out that if the father already died, it's still prohibited? Hahumi seifa dekra nafka. That can be learned out from the end of the pasuk, because that same pasuk, it says ervas eshes avicha lo segala. It finishes ervas avicha hi, and so that extra phrase ervas avicha hi, that says even if the father has died. That's how the Rabbanan will understand. For Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda will respond to that. What does he do with that part of the pasuk? Hahumi boile. That part of the pasuk is needed for the following: mishum eshes av atamachayvo. That you're chayiv if the person is with the wife of his father. He's chayiv because it's the wife of his father. However, there's there's not an additional liability that she's actually a married woman. Maybe you'd say there's two liabilities because she's the wife of his father and she's a married woman in general. That's what the pasuk is saying. That's how they understand the pasuk, or that's how Rabbi Yehuda understands the pasuk. That part of the pasuk is saying there's no additional violation of eshes ish. The Gemara continues 1 second. But we learned in the Mishnah, Habal eshes of chayiv olem mishum eshes of umishum eshes ish. It actually says in our Mishnah, if a person has relations with the wife of his father, it is two violations. It's a violation of the wife of his father, and it's a violation of eshes ish. And then also bein b'chayav and bein lachar misasav. In terms of eshes av, it's going to be a liability whether the father is alive or whether the father has already died. V'lo polig Rabbi Yehuda, and we don't find in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda argues. It would seem that Rabbi Yehuda agrees with that. So how can you say that according to Rabbi Yehuda you're not chayav mishum eshes ish? The Mishnah says you are chayav mishum eshes ish, and Rabbi Yehuda doesn't argue. And the Gemara says to that, Amar Abai says polig b'braisa. It's true that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't argue in the Mishnah, but he does argue in the Bryce, and really Rabbi Yehuda would say, again, that we exclude that violation. You're not chayiv mishum eshes ish, you're only chayiv mishum eshes av. And the Gemara continues, V'Rabbanan, now according to the Rabbanan, Onesh de Eshes Aviv La'achar Misa Menalahu, where do they know that there's a punishment for Eshes Aviv La'achar Misa? Meaning to say, again, if you have the wife of his father and then the father has already died, where do the Rabbanan know that punishment from? B'Shlam Rabbi Yehuda, we understand according to Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'isi Lo B'Gzeira Shava, because we've already said there's a Gzeira Shava that connects the two psukim, so wherever there's a warning, there's automatically a punishment. Ela Rabbanan Menalu, but according to the Rabbanan, you don't have that Gzeira Shava to connect warning warning to punishment. So how do they know the punishment? By a situation where the father has died. And the Gemara says to that, Amri Loch, they will say to you, Hahu Ervas Aviv Gila. That pasuk of Ervas Aviv Gila, Demapik Lo Reb Yehuda L'Gzeira Shavet, which Reb Yehuda uses for the Gzeira Shavet to connect these two psukim, they mafkiluhu inu, they use that pasuk la'onesh de'eshes aviv la'achar misa for exactly this one scenario, that there's a punishment for the wife of his father after the father dies. And the Gemara continues, V'Rabbanan onesh li'imo she'ena eshes aviv b'nolahu. Similarly, where do the Rabbanan know the punishment for his mother if she's not also the wife of his father? Again, they don't have that Gezer Shavah to connect the warnings to the punishments. And to that we quote Rav Shisha B'rei Ravidi, which we mentioned on the previous Amud. Amar Rav Shisha B'rei Ravidi. Rav Shisha B'rei Ravidi says, Amar Kratz, because the pasuk says imchahi, this is your mother. Asa hakasav li'imo she'ena eshes aviv ki imo she'eshes aviv. What we're saying there is that his mother, who's not the wife of his father, is the same as his mother, who is the wife of his father, and there is a punishment in that situation. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Haba al kaloso, if somebody has relations with his daughter-in-law. And the Gemara says, V'lechayiv nami mishum eshes beno. In the pasuk about his daughter-in-law, it also refers to her as eshes beno, the wife of his son. Why isn't that an additional violation? There should just be two violations, because it's referred to twice. Rashi here explains, V'lechayiv nami mishum eshes beno, to hashnei lavin ushnei shemosein, because it's two separate negative commandments and two separate names that we refer. Ervas kaloscha lo segala, the full pasuk is Ervas kaloscha, your daughter-in-law you can't be with. Eshes bin chahi lo segala ervasa, she's the wife of your son, you can't be with her. So that should be two violations just based on Eshes bino and kaloso. And the Gemara says to that, Amar Abaye says, Pasach hakasa bekaloso v'sayim be'eshes bino. What the pasuk is really simply doing is it's starting by calling her kaloso, his daughter-in-law, and then it finishes by calling her Eshes bino, the wife of his son. Lomar lach zui kaloso zui Eshes bino. That's just to tell you that his daughter-in-law, what is kaloso? What does that mean? It means Eshes bino. It means the wife of his son. Rashi explains, V'sayim be'eshes bino dechsiv he. It says he. She is. Umashma he who amura bereisha, she, the same person we mentioned, bereisha the Quran, the beginning of the pasuk. V'hai dehadar v'kosve l'chayiv ola af lachar misa. The reason why we're repeating it in order to say that there's a chiyav even after the son dies. Still, that's considered his daughter-in-law, and that is a violation. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Haba al hazocher, if somebody has relations with another man, V'al habehemor, if somebody has relations with an animal. This is talking about a man being with an animal. V'ha'isha hameviyas habehemor, let's say a woman who is with an animal. Beskila, so in those situations, the punishment is skila, the punishment is stoning, and that stoning applies not only to the person, it applies to the animal as well. And the Mishnah continues, now 1 second, if the person sinned, what was the sin of the animal? Why are we stoning the animal? And the Mishnah explains, because a stumbling block came to a person through this animal, that's why the pasuk says this animal needs to be stoned. Another explanation, that an animal shouldn't be walking through the marketplace. And people will say about that animal, Zuhi sheniskal ploni al yada. This animal caused so-and-so to get skila, to be stoned. And the Gemara says, Zachar Minala, and the Gemara says, where do we know this idea of Mishkav Zachar, that it's forbidden for a man to be with another man? The Tan Rabbanon, because the rabbis taught, Ish Prat Lakatan. First it says in the Pasuk, Ish, the full Pasuk is Ish Asher Yishkav as Zachar, a man who is with a male. When it says Ish, that's referring to an adult, not a minor, to exclude a minor. But then it says Asher Yishkav es Zachar, it says that he's with a male. It doesn't use the word Ish over there. So that means to say the person he's lying with, Bein Gadol, Bein Katan, it doesn't matter if he's an adult, it doesn't matter if he's a minor, that would still be a violation. Rashi says, Asher Yishkav es Zachar midoloksiv Ish, from the fact that it doesn't say Ish at the end of the pasuk, Lo chilek bin eshkavim, there's no difference with the one who is lied with, Bein Gadol, Bein Katan, whether he's an adult or a minor, his chayiv hashochev, to say that the one who is doing the lying with him, to say that that person is chayiv, that person is liable. And finally, the pasuk ends and says, Mishkavei Isha, the pasuk is saying that the man is with another man in the way that a man is with a woman, Mishkavei Isha. Magid loch hakasav sheshnei mishkavos beisha. That part of the pasuk is saying that there are two different ways to lie with a woman. What that's referring to is the fact, let's say a man is with a woman that's forbidden to him, so it doesn't matter how he is with her. It doesn't matter if he's with her kedarka or shalo kedarka. It doesn't matter if he's with her vaginally or anally. In both of those situations, that will be a violation, as the Gemara, as the Brisa now continues. Amar Rabbi Yishmael says, Hareza bo lelamed v'nimso lamad. This pasuk is coming to teach teach really it's talking about Mishkav Zachar, but it turns out we learned something about Mishkavei Isha, Mos Yumasu Beskila, and then it says in the Pasuk, Mos Yumasu Beskila, that they're both going to die, and we understand that to mean Skila by Mishkav Zachar, they're going to die by stoning. Ata Omer Beskila, Eino El Ba'achas, Mikol Misus Ha'amuras B'Torah, you're saying it's stoning, maybe it's one of the other death penalties. Nemar Kan Demehem Bam, it says over here Demehem Bam, V'nemar Ba'ovi Yidoni Demehem Bam, and it says by Oven Yidoni, by sorcery Demehem Bam, Malahalan Beskila, Afkan Beskila, just like over there it's Skila, so too over here it's Skila. And Rashi explains by Mishkavei Isha, Shtei Mishkavos, Yesh Be'isha, again, two types of being with a woman, Shavin Zelazeh, they're the same, L'chayev, that you're chayev, B'chol Arayas, by all cases of Arayas, Kedarka v'shalo Kedarka. If again, a person's with a woman he's not allowed to be with, because it's Arayas, let's say it's a relative or something like that, it doesn't matter if it's together with her in the normal fashion or in the not normal fashion, it's still a violation. The Pasuk, really, the point of the Pasuk is to say that you're chayev a man with a man, when it's Shalo Kedarka. V'nim Solamad, but it's really teaching us L'mishkav Zachar Lo Itzrich. Rashi says we don't need that by Mishkav Zachar, because Lo Itzrich, you don't need the Pasuk. The Pshitalan, that's obvious. The Chol Mishkav Zachar Shalo Kedarka. Anytime a man is with another man, that's Shalo Kedarka, that's considered to be not normal. Elahai Mishkaveh, when it says Mishkaveh in plural, Lashminan also, that's coming to teach us the Haba al Isha, that when one has relations with a woman, Ben Kedarka, Ben Shalo Kedarka, whether it's the normal fashion or not the normal fashion, Chayiv, the person is going to be liable in those situations, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Dalid Amid Beis.